right, folks, we are back here on WLTH 1370 AM. That's 92.7 in the FM dial. It is 6:29 in the PM here on Friday, September the 26th, 2025. The future is here. The future is now. Well, at a White House press conference on September the 22nd, Donald Trump, our presidente, repeatedly warned against taking Tylenol, which its generic name is Acetaminophen, during pregnancy or giving it to children, stating, "Don't take Tylenol." You know how Trump talks. He suggested a possible causal link between acetaminophen in use in utero and the development of autism in children. Trump asserted that the FDA would update the drug's safety labeling to reflect this risk. He also invoked comparison, claiming that in populations like the Amish or in Cuba, where he alleged less Tylenol use, autism rates are lower, implying a correlation. This administration is also promoting leucovorin, which is a folinic acid derivative, as a possible treatment for some autism symptoms, and they plan to open regulatory pathways for that in conjunction with the Tylenol autism claims. In official White House material, the administration frames this issue as mounting evidence linking acetaminophen use during pregnancy to neurological changes and autism, arguing for a precautionary posture. Now, what does the scientific community have to say about this? The consensus amongst medical experts is that the evidence does not support a causal link between acetaminophen, which is Tylenol's generic name, and autism. Major groups like American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists have strongly criticized Trump's statements, calling them irresponsible. They've also said that they are highly concerning and not grounded in established science. They emphasize that acetaminophen remains one of the safer options to manage pain and fever during pregnancy, and that untreated fever has its own risks. So acetaminophen, which is Tylenol's generic name, is one of the few things that pregnant women are advised to take when they have things like fever and pain. So this is a really big deal. Scientists caution that many studies which find mild associations are observational and may suffer from confounding factors. For example, mothers who take acetaminophen might differ systematically in health status, infection exposure, etc. A large sibling comparison study in Sweden, which is better at controlling for shared genetics and environment, did not find support for causal connection. Nature, which is one of the most respected science journals in the world, explicitly said that the strong evidence needed to assert causation is lacking, and warned focusing prematurely on such a link might distract from more fruitful research. The White House Health and Human Services press release itself acknowledges conflicting literature and states that the evidence is not definitive. They say that the intent is to encourage clinicians to use the lowest effective dose for the shortest time, rather than a blanket prohibition. The administration is citing a recent review led by Harvard's Andrea Baccarelli and other observational studies that find associations between prenatal acetaminophen and neurodevelopmental outcomes. But the strongest, better controlled studies, especially sibling comparison analysis using very large data sets, do not support a causal link after accounting for familial confounding. Major public health bodies like the World Health Organization and many other independent researchers say that the evidence is inconclusive and does not justify telling pregnant women to avoid acetaminophen categorically. Now, the administration and the FDA are announcing steps that include starting a labeling process to note possible associations and to alert clinicians. But the FDA statement and other official materials acknowledge that the evidence is not definitive and emphasize judicious use. This is an administrative precautionary response, not a settled scientific verdict. And that is important. They're not banning it. They're not prohibiting it. It's just an advisory. And that's important to say. If you are pregnant or caring for an infant, do not make medication changes based on headlines alone. Talk to your clinician. And, for many pregnant women, doctors still will recommend acetaminophen for pain or fever because untreated fever infection can be harmful. So use the lowest effective dose for the shortest period of time per the ACOG. That is what they are saying. Now, obviously, a lot of people are up in arms about this and saying, oh my God, this is Trump and RFK Jr. going off the rails again. And I thought that is possible until I actually found Tylenol themselves. I went to Tylenol's Twitter page. Tylenol themselves, when they were asked about it from one of their followers, said, we actually don't recommend using any of our products while pregnant. Thank you for taking the time to voice your concerns today. And that was written in 2017. 2017. Yes. That was 8 years ago. 8 years ago, Tylenol told pregnant women not to take their products. So, we know that these drug companies are not in the business of curing ailments. As Chris Rock said, the money's not in the cure, the money's in the medicine. So when a company itself is telling you not to take their products for a specific reason, I don't know. I think you might want to listen to them. So even if you don't rock with Trump or RFK, like I think a lot of us do not rock with Trump or RFK, I think it's okay to listen to Tylenol themselves. Tylenol themselves are pretty much telling you, if you're pregnant, you shouldn't be taking our products. And I know there's a lot of people out there. Let me just say this. There's a lot of people out there who genuinely just hate, Trump and hate, who hate Trump and hate RFK. They're no fans of them. And I understand that. But it is important to understand that, Big Pharma are just as bad or worse. I actually talked about the Arkansas blood scandal not too long ago. When I talked about, I think it was Bill Clinton. When I was doing my History's Greatest Monster segment on Bill Clinton, I believe that was a part of it. The Arkansas blood scandal is when Bayer used the blood of convicted criminals in Arkansas state prisons in the early 80s. Note I said the early 80s, right? Think about what was happening in the early 80s. They started using the blood of criminals in Arkansas state prisons when Bill Clinton was the governor of Arkansas. And they started using their blood to make this clotting agent, this medication for hemophiliacs called factor VIII. And again, I said this is the early 80s, so this is the beginning of the AIDS epidemic. And at this point in 83, 84, 85, there's not a whole lot of tests that exist really to really make sure that the blood is pure. And so they started using this blood from literally some of the dangerous criminals and people, drug addicts and all these other things, prostitutes, whatever. They used this to make this clotting agent, factor VIII, this medication. And people started dying from it. because inadvertently they started giving people AIDS. And the FDA says, oh, hell no. You got to get this off the market. And so Bayer says, okay, all right, we'll take it off the market in America. We'll take it off the market in America. So knowing that this product was literally giving people AIDS, they instead started sending their product to Europe, to Asia, and to South America, and started killing people all over there with their AIDS-tainted factor VIII clotting medicine for hemophiliacs. And actually in France, some of the executives from Bayer actually went to prison for this. This wasn't like some, and in the UK, there was just in last year, the lawsuits, some of the lawsuits were finally settled after like 40 years. Most of the people were dead. So I remind you, this is who Big Pharma is. They have for years sold talcum powder that they knew was giving women cervical cancer. Johnson & Johnson had to do that. Settled a bunch of lawsuits over that. Big Pharma does not give a damn about anything but their own profits. So it is important to understand, because I've seen idiots on TikTok and on Twitter who are like, well, Trump says I shouldn't take Tylenol. Pregnant women are saying this. I'm going to take a whole bunch. I watched a woman take like 6 Tylenol pills while dancing as a way to be defiant towards Trump. And I'm sitting there thinking, look, there's no such thing as a completely safe medication. No such thing. It doesn't exist. There is pluses and minuses to every vaccine, to every medication. You're altering your body chemistry with anything you take. Anytime I'm seeing someone say, and particularly the companies themselves, they're saying, be careful with this. Maybe you shouldn't be taking this. I don't care who's agreeing with them. I don't care if it's Trump. I don't care if it's RFK. I don't care if it's JFK, the corpse of JFK, MLK. I don't care. If it's the Grand Wizard of the KKK, it don't matter. Once the companies themselves start saying, you know, maybe our products should not be taken by pregnant women. We don't recommend any of our products for pregnant women. I don't know. I'm inclined to listen to them, because we know they don't care about people's health. We know they just care about money. So if they're telling you not to take it, they're afraid that they might get sued if you do take it. So if you are taking it, be careful. That's all I'm saying. And that's what the White House is technically saying. Be careful. But of course, because Trump and his administration are so incompetent and so buffoonish and so incapable of doing the most minuscule task competently, it's come off as, hey, everybody who takes Tylenol is going to get autism. And that's just not true. But Tylenol themselves are telling you, maybe you should think twice about before taking our product when you're pregnant. So I'm just gonna just listen to them on that one. All right, folks, it is 6:43 in the PM. We are steaming along because we got a packed show. When we come back, we're going to talk about Venezuela. Why is Trump trying to overthrow Venezuela's government? Huh? You tell me. We'll be right back here on Straight Out of the Cannon with me, Scott Cannon. We'll be right back after these, humans.